This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome. He's a man who presented what many said was a revolutionary budget, but the euphoria over that budget didn't last all that long, with the Tehelka stock market crashes and all sorts of things taking away some of the luster of that. But he now joins us in this very special interview to talk about the Indian economy and lots of other things. Mr. Yashwant Sinha, thank you so much for joining us on Talking Heads. The Indian economy, many would say, has been one of the fastest growing economies for the last 7 or 8 years. Is it now, though, in some sort of trouble? We are seeing a drought in many parts, industrial slowdown, competition, NASDAQ blues in the software sector. Is the Indian economy in some trouble now?
Well, I would say that we have never really been out of trouble. If you look at the performance of the Indian economy, what makes it impressive is that despite all these problems, it has been possible for us to record what the world regards as a healthy growth rate. And you might recall that we started with the famous economic sanctions in 1998. And every year has been a year of challenge. This year, I suppose, is no less. You're quite right in saying that we have drought, we have the international technology crash, we have the petroleum price increases, we have our problems, the industrial slowdown in the rest of the world, industrial slowdown in India. So there are problems, but
when you say that the Indian economy has always been in some sort of trouble, even through this entire period, what's the sort of trouble you're referring to? Is it the more structural problems that we actually do have?
I'll not say trouble. I'll say that we've had challenges. We have had challenges because I remember when I assumed office in 1998, we had the challenge of an economy in a slowdown because the previous year the growth rate was only 5%. And then we had the East Asian crisis, then we had the sanctions, and we've had our share of natural calamities, the super cyclone in Orissa, Gujarat earthquake, floods in Andhra Pradesh. So it's not been, I wouldn't say that everything has been absolutely tailor-made. We have had challenges, we have faced those challenges, we are facing some challenges even today.
But Mr. Sinha, many would say and have been arguing for quite some time that many of the challenges in India are self-created policy problems, policy bottlenecks, laws and rules that don't really allow the Indian people to fully generate their full potential. Now, you did try and address some of those problems during your budget, but many would say that a month and a half later, there are questions as to whether you'll actually be able to get through some of those so-called second-generation reforms that you had started.
Well, those doubts have been there for quite some time, and it is true, as you were saying, that we have tried to boldly face those problems in this year's budget, and therefore the doubts are a little more evident now than if we had not done that. But I would say that despite all the problems that you have mentioned, we will and we should be able to implement those reforms because, quite frankly, I do not see a way out for this country in the field of the economy without those steps that I have outlined in the budget. So it's a question of, no go. I mean, you have to do it.
So you do agree then with the criticism which has often been made that Indian policy has, in a sense, stifled the Indian economy for many years?
Well, policy has tried to keep pace, but
government rules, regulations have not allowed.
Policy has at times been overtaken by politics, as you pointed out yourself. So there have been problems, but challenges, but that's life.
Right, and what is life ahead now on some of those issues which you're talking about? Labour market reforms, for example, how are you going to get that through in Parliament? Disinvestment, a big thrust area now. You're seeing what happened with Balco. That's the reason why many are really worried a little right now as to whether you'll get your reforms through.
Let me take a little time to explain what we are trying to do on the labour market reform. I mean, there are many who believe that I had no right to deal with labour market reforms in the budget. But they obviously forget that a budget is a document which represents the totality of the policy of the government. And therefore, I have as much right to deal with agriculture. I have as I have to deal with labor. Now, having said that, what is it that I have tried to do? I have tried to do two things. One is, and that's a first, that I have said that the Industrial Disputes Act shall be amended to ensure that or to arrange that units, industrial units, which employ up to 1,000 employees, will not be required to have prior approval of the competent authority if they want to retrench. Now, this power, this facility is already available to units having employees up to 100. I'm merely raising it to. It's not a new situation.
But whatever the merits of the policy are, and many people would agree that it does have certain merits, politically, how will you get that through?
No, that's why I'm trying to explain. Because
to make sure that the politicians understand this. It's easier to explain it on TV than in Parliament, is it?
No, in Parliament also I explained. I took time to explain it in Parliament, but it's important that the message goes to the people that what we are doing is based on consensus. That take the question of this contract labor. Now, it is based on a consensus which was evolved in the Interstate Council, where chief ministers cutting across political party lines asked for this, and we have provided for it. We are trying to provide for it. Two, that all these involve amendments of the existing laws, which means that they will be brought before Parliament. Parliament will discuss it in the standing committees. Parliament will discuss it in the Houses of Parliament. And that's how I told the Rajya Sabha that after all, that's how we evolved a consensus in regard to insurance. Right. You will recall that there was so much opposition within and outside to insurance sector reforms.
But
eventually it happened. So there is a process even in the parliamentary system of evolving a consensus.
Right.
And I am saying that we will be able to evolve that consensus.